thing was the boots is like I gotta kick the bull. I gotta jump off the porch. So I had to wear the cowboy boots because regardless, because you can wear a cowboy boot everywhere. I can put some black cowboy boots on and we can go to a formal event at the White House. I can wear these on the chill, but I can also put a suit on with these. I'm always ready to jump off the porch.
Yeah, if you were in Texas, can you still do that here?
I don't wear dress shoes.
Really? Do you always wear boots?
Yeah. If you look,
I never know.
If you look, exactly.
You're always wearing boots?
Always wearing boots.
And is it because of that thing?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
You gotta get that to come up.
I'm always ready. I'm always ready.
You're wearing boots because
I wear boots in the summertime.
Do you like boots though, or is it?
Just I love boots. I'm from the South.
You're from South Carolina. That's not they don't wear boots in South Carolina.
I mean, if you're in the rural area,
it's not Texas.
We ain't riding horses. Yeah, it's not. I mean, you wear it's more. I mean, I can wear boots in the South, and it's more. People don't look at me twice.
Accepted,
yeah. But up here, people don't really know because the thing is, it's a nice shoe, too. So when you work with people, when you be around, like when you work with people that buy boots, right? When you start buying boots, you realize like, oh, boots aren't cheap. No. So there's a lot of things that go into.
So you wear, but I'm just gonna go back to the point. You wear like it's like a costume for you. It's like the superhero outfit.
No, it's a meaning. It's right,
but that's what
it's a mentality.
Right, but that's what the superhero.
Yeah, it's a mentality. It is.
You being you.
Superman,
exactly. Yeah, it is.
So that's your super boots. Like
yeah, and then I got my Malcolm X glasses on because I'm bucking the system.
Together. Right.
But the thing is, though, I practice it. Mm-hmm. Like when we talk with labor, I'm always like, if they had to be like, who's your most problem director? They're gonna say, what would they say?
They probably would say him, but it's the way they look at things.
Yeah, so I'm trying to change the system.
I say who?
And so we're gonna have a conversation. So I come
labor might watch this.
I come in with the Malcolm X in the booth. It's like, well, he showed us who he was.
Yeah, but I don't. It's funny. I would not have put Malcolm X glasses or boots because even though I'm looking at him, I'm not thinking you don't come off that way. You know what I mean? Like you're not come off like a whatever a boot wearer is. I don't know.
What is it? That's the
cowboy. Like I don't know. I think it's a cowboy.
I would say I'm the workforce cowboy.
All right.
I would say
now, but that's you gave me the narrative. Now it's in my mind.
If you looked at
now
it,
I'll never see you differently.
Gabe,
again.
if you look at it, right? If you looked at what a cowboy is, if you look at what a cowboy was back then, like an outlaw, somebody who does it on their own terms, even if it's like Wyatt Earp, who was like a marshal, he wasn't like your normal cop police officer. He was like, oh, you drink it and you do something, I'm gonna shoot you in the face, and I'm the U.S. Marshal, right? Like, I feel like what he and I talk about is I want to break every single workforce norm that is BS.
All right, let's talk. Yep. Let's talk. Let's get into it. Let's get into this because this is too good. Now, are we good? We record. I mean, I know you're not recording, but you can hear us. Are we okay? All right. Are Anthony and I keeping good microphone technique?
Okay. It's kind of tough because of where my mic is, but
you can move the mic.
Then it pivots that way.
How you feeling?
I'm good.
I know. I'm ready for this.
I'm excited.
I'm ready for this.
I'm excited. Like
I am too.
Two people that I really like.
Oh, well, that's high praise. I know I'm a new add to that family.
But Gabe, I like your style though.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't wear boots.
But you got the swag though. I'm gonna have to get you a different hat.
I got tennis shoes.
I gotta get you a hat though.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna say dominate. Because that's I'm serious.
I appreciate it.
I got a hat because
I'm gonna wear that to my labor meeting. I just had one yesterday. It was not fun.
I'm gonna mail it to you. Give me an address. I'm gonna give it real. Really? That's my homeboy. We dominate. I'm gonna tell you.
All right. I'm gonna take you up on that. I'll send you that email with my little request and the hat request.
There you go.
All right then. All right, should we start?
Let's do it.
So you
Let's
two. So which one is okay? You two are looking. They're looking at that one, and I look at them. Okay. Don't worry about it. Well, just at least for the intro, right? And then, okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Probably the one in the middle, making most sense, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Easy. All right. And are the water bottles okay? Actually, we should probably take the water bottles out because it's Dawson's Creek. Oh yeah, there's no rules, right? All right then. Yeah, that's true. Dawson Creek, dominate. All right, everybody, ready? All right, we're gonna start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bridging the Gap podcast. I'm Gabriel Martinez Cabrera. I'm the executive director for LCMC.
And I'm Anthony Featherstone, executive director for WorkSource Montgomery.
And today we're very lucky. Oh, you can't. No, not yet. Today we're really lucky to have our special guest, Walter Simmons. He is the CEO and president of Employ Prince George's. And we're going to talk to him about a bunch of things, about why he wears glasses and boots, among other things, and how he's going to change the labor. Well, with Anthony, he's going to help change how we do workforce development in the area. And adult ed, I'm going to say, because you're very smart about education too. So we'll talk about that as well. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I really wanted, when I saw this opportunity, and I'm like, I'm going to be with Gabe and Anthony. I was nervous. But I was very excited because I think you two are phenomenal leaders. So I'm very excited to see what's in store.
Well, thank you, Anthony.
Right,
I think you want to start things off.
Let's get to it. So Walter Simmons, president and CEO, Employ Prince George's, board member, National Association of Workforce Boards, National Association of Workforce Development Professionals, and a bunch of other boards. That's a lot, man. How old are you?
I just turned 34.
Wow. 34 years old, man. That's amazing. But tell us your story, man. Tell us your journey. Tell us how you got to the point where you are the president and CEO and doing all these big things in workforce and outside of workforce too, man. We're interested to hear your story.
How much time do you have?
As much time as you need.
Whoa. Okay.
Just make it good.
There you go. Well, my first things first, I wouldn't be here without my mother, my family support system, but my mother specifically from a workforce, Lanita Jacob Simmons, has been a workforce leader for decades. She's currently the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Labor for the United States Department of Labor. But in saying that, knowing that she was a workforce board director, growing up, I wanted nothing to do with workforce development. I sat through so many workforce boards that I would try to figure out, why would anybody do this in their life? Like, you signed up for this? Nobody knows what you do, right? And the people that know what you do, they don't really like you. So I grew up wanting to go into the military. I had a dream of really going to fight for my country and protecting my country. I ended up playing high school football, got a scholarship. I majored in history, minored in criminal justice. Once I realized maybe the military wasn't a good fit because I was never going to be small enough to fit into those uniforms, I said, well, I want to work Border Patrol or the FBI. And then I had an internship for my criminal justice minor where I worked for the sheriff's department. And I really saw poverty, like I had friends that lived in the projects. I had people that lived in Section 8. But when I went to rural South Carolina and I saw real poverty, like don't have shoes, people don't have running water, and it changed my life. And then I started really trying to understand what happened. So then you see those people, then you see that same kid get arrested, right? And you realize, like, I know why the kid got arrested. He didn't have a fighting chance. So then I started working in alternative schools. Then I saw these kids that had already been kicked out. They're outcast of society at 15. They've been told they don't belong. They will never be successful from their parents, from their families, from their teachers. So then I went on to juvenile justice, and it changed my life. In juvenile justice, I work with, they have different levels in South Carolina of supervision, probation officers, intensive supervision, medium supervision. And I was the intensive supervision when I started out working in the jail. Had a guy there, a kid, a young man who was 15 or 16, had really been in jail most of his life. He was getting ready to get released. He was a model student. He had gotten his high school diploma. He'd gotten the credentials. He was getting ready to go home. He traveled the state on behalf of juvenile justice talking to kids. He beat a kid up in the cafeteria with a tray. Didn't know him. Refused to talk to me. They said, violate me. When he said, violate me, I said, what does that mean? And I realized he wanted me to violate the terms. And I was like, well, if I violate you, you're 16, you're getting ready to be 17, you could be charged as an adult. I don't care, violate me. Eventually, after a few months, I had some great leaders that said, let's not violate him. Let's wait and talk to him. Eventually, he broke down. I said, why'd you do this? You getting ready to go home? You going to risk going to jail? He said, you want me to go home? I'm like, yeah. You not happy? He said, in jail, I got 3 meals a day, 2 snacks. I got AC in the winter, AC in the summer. I got heat in the winter. I got clothes. He said, none of that's promised at my home. He said, but, and this is where he really threw me for a loop. He said, but I read, he said, my birthday's coming up in a few months. I'll be 17. And I read, if you release me at 17, if you violate me for a year and you release me at 17, in the state of South Carolina, I'm an adult and I can choose to either go home or the state has to find me housing. He said, so violate me. Then I realized this guy, this kid was really more than what we realized. He had used the law library and was trying to figure out how to put him and his family in the best situation. And he realized that he needed to stay in jail a few more months till he was 17, and then he could put himself in a better economic situation. And that's when I learned how intelligent this convicted 8 to 10 year incarcerated juvenile was.
Yeah, sure.
And I helped him stay. We didn't violate him, but he did stay. And, for the few years we stayed in touch, he went on to be a successful adult. And that's when I realized that I can't leave my community and know that there's people in my community where they're choosing jail over home. And that's what got me on the pathway, which led to me eventually going into workforce development. I had some good, my mother, I had some good role models. I had a guy that I met at a bidders conference named Anthony, who taught me that you don't have to be on 10 every time. And then work my way through various elements, really from starting on the front desk of a job center to becoming the president of Employ Prince George's and the director of the Prince George's County Workforce Board.
And how'd you end up here? How'd you end up from South Carolina to here?
Oh, so I got laid off. I got laid off in 2013. Right. I was a dislocated worker. Right. So I'm sitting like everybody else. Like, how did the guy that finds people jobs end up without a job? So I started working for United Way in the prosperity centers. And that's really when I learned what a one-stop was. I worked in a one-stop, but I didn't learn what a one-stop was until I left workforce and really worked in a one-stop where they actually provided all of the services. I was, again, blessings, right? Somebody nominated me to go to the White House for the work that I was doing. Still don't know who that person is. They never said anything to me. And I went to DC and I went to the White House Summit for Working Families, and I got to see President Obama. I got to see Vice President Biden. I got to see all of these national leaders, the Katie Courics and the Wendy Williams doing interviews and Valerie Jarrett and Nancy Pelosi. And then I realized I can, there's a bigger world out here than rural South Carolina. And I think 90 days I was in DC. 90 days later, I was working for the DC Department of Employment Services. I managed our American Job Centers. Then I got a call one day saying, hey, would you be interested in working in Maryland? And I lived in Prince George's County for a few years. And I started working for the Economic Development Corporation, saw an opportunity where we could really grow our economy by focusing on the residents. We started Employ Prince George's on June 4th, 2018, launched July 1st. And we've been rocking and rolling ever since, focusing on building our economy one job seeker at a time.
It's only been since 2018?
It's 2018, July 1st.
Oh my God. I almost thought that thing looks like it's been an institution that's been there for years. I thought that predated you. I didn't realize you were the start of it.
Yeah, I'm the founding president, CEO, and that's by design. Before we got here, in a 20-year period, Prince George's County had 3 workforce development entities. My goal, I feel like I'm a good workforce development professional. I feel like I could build workforce programs. My goal, what I believe is the goal of all leaders. When you look at the greatest basketball coaches of all time, or any coach, they don't look at how many championships, because a great coach wins championships. They look at their coaching tree. They really look at how many coaches wanted them. When you talk about John Madden, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, they rarely, Coach K, right? They rarely talk about championships. They really talk about, how many NBA players they produce? Nick Saban, you know how many NFL players, John Wooden, do you know how many coaches have won championships that coached under him? And so when I wanted to build a workforce organization that 20 years later in Prince George's County, they would only know employ Prince George's. So from day one, we started talking about foundation and how do we build a successful foundation that we can be employed Prince George's forever. And then how do we focus on our people so that around the region and around the country, there's a lot of people in this workforce space that are in leadership that came through Employ Prince George's. So that's the goal from day one, is always been to be an organization that can drive impact today, tomorrow, and decades down the road. And while doing that, we're going to build the people, we're going to build our businesses, but we're going to build workforce development leaders. Because I'll say this right now, who in workforce development focuses on us? What career pathways have you traversed? Were they outlined? Did somebody tell you? No, 90% you lucked into your job.
Yep. Yeah.
If I wouldn't have met that kid who chose jail over home, I probably wouldn't be here.
Right. If
I wouldn't have got laid off and somebody said, hey, have you ever heard of a financial stability center? I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Well, so let's backtrack and let's talk about Prince George's and what's going on in Prince George's right now. How would you maybe the question is, how would you characterize Prince George's pre-COVID and how would you characterize it now as far as like the trends you're seeing? And I know that's a big question, but I'm just kind of like, what comes to your mind when you think, okay, this is where we are right now with Prince George's, this is where we were, and this is where maybe I'd like to see us go next.
Well, life is like a chess game, right? I approach everything like chess, and really people don't realize chess is really about numbers and strategy. So let's talk about it, right? 2019, 3.7% unemployment rate going into 2020. We're looking at it at August, September, on the height of the pandemic, 10.9% unemployment rate. Now we're down to 5%. So we've had unemployment rates where unemployment rate is higher. We went from 10,000 unemployed residents to above 20,000 unemployed residents. When people talk about jobs, and let's be clear, economic development is workforce development because jobs are not really jobs. The jobs number is not the number of jobs in an area, it's the number of employed people in an area, right?
Break that out. What does that mean?
Yeah, so when you hear jobs, when we hear President Biden talking about job growth, when we hear our county executives and our governor talk about job growth, they're not talking about the number of jobs in Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Maryland, or the United States. They're talking about the number of employed people. So your quarterly jobs number, which is called the quarterly census of employment and wages, is the jobs number. But the jobs number is the number of employed people. So in Prince George's County, even though we're at a 5% unemployment rate, which is 1.3% away from pre-COVID, we've lost 30,000 people. We've lost 30,000 jobs, anywhere from 25 to 30,000. We've equally lost about, and when you talk about labor force, the number of eligible and people looking for work or employed in our county, we've lost about 20 to 30,000 people, workers. So to answer the question of where we are, we're better than where we were last year. We're definitely better than where we were the year before, but we haven't quite rebounded to where we were pre-COVID, right? And like anything else, the numbers don't always tell the true story. And so while we've gotten our numbers to where they look like they need to be, there's still more work to do because we lost those 30,000 employed people and we lost those 20 to 30,000 workers. So there's a sense of, and what I would say is where we are right now is the sense of the unknown. Because where did those people go? Well, I don't know.
So I was going to say, so when you say we've lost them, you lost the workers, where do they leave? I mean, is this
I'm looking under the table.
Is this COVID? I mean, is it COVID deaths? I mean, I'm just asking.
Did they move? Are they living with you? We don't. Yeah, that's why it's the unknown. That's why if somebody said, well, what was one word you would use to talk about the economy in Prince George's or economics or even the country? The unknown. Everybody across the country is saying, where did these people go?
Yeah.
We know that African-American women, minority women as well, were the number one impacted group. We know that women were the number one impacted group. Where did they go? Are they home because they had to take care of the kids? Did they have to retire because they got to take care of a multi-generational household? We don't know, right? That's the real secret question, right? We also know that employers said they can't find people, but we know there's all these unemployed people. And really that's something we need to look at is, can you can't find people at all, or you can't find the people that you want to hire, or do you have unrealistic expectations, or can you not find people because you're not paying a livable wage, right? So really, we know we have the data, and what we're trying to do in Prince George County is really explore it. And the only way to explore it is to get boots on the ground. That's why I'm happy we partnered with WorkSource Montgomery and Farber. We're getting 2 mobile units that are going to arrive, and we're going to drive around Prince George's County, and we're going to touch every community. We have 9 districts, every councilmanic district, every community. We're going to the rich areas. We're going to the hood. We're going to our immigrant communities, because I really am going to try to find where are you? Why aren't you working? And how can we help?
Yeah, talk about what are those mobile ones? I know you want to get a question. So
no, that's important. That's important.
Talk about the mobile ones. Maybe both of you guys talk about the mobile, since it seems to be a joint effort.
So I mean, a mobile job center is exactly American Job Center. What is an American Job Center? I tell people all the time, American Job Center is 4 walls, a door, and a roof. It's let's send them to the American Job Center. Yeah, that's true, but it's not an entity. It's a group of partners, and hopefully we talk about that. But we're really trying to take those services in an American Job Center: job search, registration in the system, resume reviews, cover letter, interview skills. We're basically taking that physical structure and putting it on wheels, because people have accessibility. As we learned a lot through the pandemic, America was not as strong as we thought it was. People are not everybody's not living as well as everybody thought, because you notice, once people lost one paycheck and people went crazy, right? So we're going to start increasing accessibility, right? We have to bring these services to our community, and we have to change our mindset, right? Where people say, well, if they can't come to the job center, how are they going to get to a job? And I was like, well, let's figure that out, because they're like, well, I just don't understand. I was like, okay, well, you drive your car. All right, let me take your car away tonight. How you going to get to work? Do you know Marty, do you know the bus schedule? I bet you don't. So let's not, when we remove an asset out of anybody's house, so we don't know what is the outcome either. So we're going to try to increase accessibility by bringing a service to our community, because there's a group of people who don't trust our community. Mm-hmm. We saw that in the previous administration, and rightfully so, right? Mm-hmm. They don't trust it because of things they've seen. They don't trust it because they've been overlooked. Yeah. There's a disadvantaged populations, underserved populations. They don't know what's available because there's generations of people who probably needed services, didn't know they're available. And then there's a general, I don't have internet. I don't have a computer. Mm-hmm. So really it's about improving accessibility by bringing a resource to the community.
How are you guys partnering then? Anthony, what do you got?
So we partner on a bunch of different levels. There's a lot of advantage and benefits being next door to EPG and Walter, but he hit it on the head. In Montgomery County, we were down 70,000 folks in our labor force at one point. We're recovering. I think we're down about 35,000 plus or minus. And we know that there's a portion of those folks that are just disconnected, discouraged, whatever you want to call them. They kind of, threw their hands up, threw the towel in, because life and the pandemic came at them and just, changed everything. So we're doing the same thing that they're doing. We're going to get the bus. We know where poverty is. It corresponds where Black and brown communities are. And that's our bus route. And those are our bus stops. So we're taking services on the road to those who need our help the most. But I want to back up, man. That story about the young man you met in the facility was amazing. And the thing about workforce that you said, most of us kind of slip and fall into it. At least I know I did. I walked into the job center actually expecting to get a job working at a sheetrock plant because the money was good. They were giving overtime. I was 22, 23. I said, sign me up. But then I fell into a case manager job. Most folks that you talk to, K through 12, post-secondary, they don't know that workforce development is a billion-dollar industry that you can make a career in and make $1 billion, but you can make good money, right? Mm-hmm. It depends on where your ambition is and how far you want to go. And you can have a good life that makes a lot of impact in a lot of other lives. How do we change that narrative? How do we make an imprint on K through 12 folks, post-secondary, so that they know, like, this is a career path. I've never talked to a young person that says, I want to grow up and be a workforce development professional. I've never talked to one of our peers when they said, well, when I grow up, I want to be a case manager, director of programs, executive director for WorkSource Montgomery, president and CEO for EPG. Like, how do we change that? That's one of the things that's always in the back of my mind. But what are your thoughts on that?
Branding. We threw, the public workforce system, what do they say? They threw the baby out with the water. Somebody used too much money on a flyer or a commercial in 1986. And then we, the United States Department of Labor, states and local areas across the country said, we are no longer going to do flyers or logos or branding. So if you don't talk about yourself, who knows you? You see what I'm saying?
That's true.
The reason why everybody wants to be a fireman when they're in kids is because the fire truck pulls up, they honk the horn, they got some cool shirts, police officers give you a badge. When a workforce development professional shows up to your school, what do you give them, like a resume?
When you show up in boots and
we're talking about your boots. You got a costume, so maybe
listen. But it's so we got a brand, right? One of the things that we're partnering on, along with these mobile units, is our apprenticeship innovation program, a branded program, so that businesses and job seekers know where to go to if a business wants to create an apprenticeship or needs help filling a vacant apprenticeship, or when a high school student hears that the painters union is starting people out at $50,000 a year, they know I can go to the apprenticeship innovation program, right? Branding. We have to brand what we do. There's Employer Prince George's, the Prince George's County Workforce Board, and the Prince George's County Public Workforce System, which is branded and modeled as the Prince George's County American Job Center Community Network, all has a brand. And that's a part of name recognition, right? Because this is the thing. People don't wake up and say, I'm gonna go enroll in that Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act law signed into legislation in July of 2014, or I'm gonna go enroll in the Wagner-Pizer Act. No, they say I'm gonna go to the jobs center, I'm gonna go to the jobs program. But for too long, we've only branded as JTPA, Job Training Peoples Act, or the Workforce Investment Act, or the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. So we don't brand, right? So that's why we don't know. Then when you started, Gabe, when you started, did anybody tell you could be a director? Did anybody tell you could be a president?
Absolutely not.
So we don't even do career pathways. One thing that we do first thing that I asked every employee at Employer Prince George's on their first day, what do you want to do next?
Right.
And they're like surprised. And I said, before you give me some kind of cheesy response that says, oh, I want to be the best employee that Employer Prince George's ever had, I said, do not tell me that.
Yeah, right.
Tell me what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And because as a leader, as a workforce professional, it's my job to develop them.
Right.
And so I say, whatever it is you want to do in workforce, out of workforce, at Employer Prince George's, out of Employer Prince George's, I'm going to try to make sure that I move you. When you leave here, you're in a better place. And that's what we need to start doing, is marketing, branding. But I mean, if you really want to get into it, we also have to work on the pay, quality of work, because that's an issue why a lot of businesses can't find people, is because who would want to work there, right? And now we're in a job seekers market. The market has changed. So it's, I would say workforce development, job searching is like online dating, like Tinder, right? Or Plenty of Fish, or whatever you want to call it, right? I don't know what
I'm married. I can't talk about that, but same here.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is right now. So you got to swipe left, swipe right, right?
Yeah.
On all of these apps, what people miss is, and YouTube probably better than me because I'm not married, right? Somebody had to agree to marry you, and you had to agree to marry them. It was a mutual agreement.
Yeah.
There was something that brought you all together and say, this works. Businesses are now seeing that, hey, this job seeker might have 4 different fish. So why would they choose them? Why would you choose workforce development and get paid? In some areas you can work. When we started in workforce, I was eligible for the programs that I was case managing.
Right.
And it was, people call it a poverty program, a low income program. Imagine knowing that I work for a low income program and I'm eligible. Right?
Placing people that making more than you.
Why would you want to work there?
Right.
So,
but you did.
It did, but
But
it was a mission.
why did you? Right, but see, I think that's it, right? I think
no, it's not. No, it's not. It's we gotta get it.
No, because you do because
I wasn't smart.
What? Nah, you just no, but that's not true though. It is
true.
Nah, because if we know you,
90% of people quit within their first 3 years.
Right, but you didn't. Why did you not?
Because I wasn't that smart. I just said it. No, because I had a mission, right?
You did.
But I could see. So when I got into workforce, my mother had been a workforce board director. My mother introduced me to somebody named Rick Mayer. And a lot of people think, they say, Walter, your mother's Lanita Jacob Simmons. She's done this, blah, blah, blah. Is that your role model? I'm like, no. My role model in workforce development.
But your mom, now you are.
No. My mom is my hero, but not because of my mom is my hero because of her story.
Yeah.
But my workforce development role model was Rick Mayer, Mayer and Mayer.
Yep.
Right. And they said, what? Why? I said, because Rick Mayer created a business out of workforce development. Now, I want to learn the business and then I want to create a business out of it. So even at 21, I knew my pathway. And that's the issue, is that we don't create pathways. No, I've never had a supervisor in workforce development in over a decade tell me when I was traversing my pathway, nobody ever laid out my pathway. And that's why at Employed Prince George's, what we started doing this year is rolled out a pathway. We created classifications from administrative assistant to CEO, executive director to show people their pathway.
Yeah.
And that's why mentorship is important, right? Wherever. Because when I was in South Carolina, I was getting ready to get laid off. I had my layoff date. The state was changing things and they were outsourcing programs. And I said, I'll take my unemployment. I'll move back home to Prince George's County. But I had a guy for a company I worked for, KRA Corporation. He was a VP. Name's Don Scott. Great story. Local legislator in Norfolk, Virginia. But he took me under his wing. He told me, hey, young fella, you can make some money in this business and you can do a lot of, good work. But I think mentorship is key too. Folks like us in these roles and our counterparts taking young folks under or newer people into the industry under their wings and kind of showing them what we had to figure out on the fly. So that was helpful for me.
But then I think you both have the answer to the question. And I don't think it's about branding. I mean, branding is part of it, but there's lots of things that are branded well. And that isn't going to be what's driving someone to do it. Because you could, let's like, look, Coca-Cola's got a great brand. I never want to go work for Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? But there was, I think what you both are saying, right? It's having someone who wants to do a mission or or it's mission oriented or has a feeling like they could give back, and then just giving that person an opportunity to say it's not that or the priesthood. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm a teacher, right? Because so teachers, like, who wants to go in to be teaching, right? Especially in adults, like low skilled adults. You make no money. I've always had to do 2 jobs, except for this current job I'm at. It's the first time I can say I made enough that I could say. So I was always working a side hustle to pay for my expensive habit of trying to help people. But what kept you in was that I had one person after another say, just keep going just a little longer. This is the path. And that's what you're doing.
I agree to that. I agree. But the door, I'm talking about getting people through the door, is the branding and getting them to understand. And when you get in there, so one of the things that I always said is I wanted to get paid to help people and not be a politician.
Right.
Not be a politician. So, and this was an opportunity to get paid to help people, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of talked about, I was in the sheriff's department, juvenile justice.
You did almost all the human services.
I worked for United
right?
Way.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I'm saying, because I had to figure out the pathway. And I think what we're missing is that career pathway for those mission-driven people and the mentor. And that's what our industry is really missing. And that's why he and I have been in here for over a decade, right? But Anthony and I have talked about this. We used to go to a conference called SETA, right?
What's it called?
SETA, SETA, Southeastern Employment and Training Association, right? From your very first SETA conference, how many people do you see at the same conference now?
A lot.
You see a lot of from your very first conference?
I mean, there's a couple that I stay connected with, but you're right.
That are still in the workforce.
Yeah, there's a group, but the faces turn over every year.
What? every year.
Yeah, but that's not because of branding. That's because no one's.
Well, no, I'm talking about.
That's because no one's thinking about entrepreneurially being.
It's
that's
branding
what we need to be.
It's branding to get into the industry. Then they're seeing a career pathway, and then having someone to guide you. It's all of those things, right? But in general, right? In general, we haven't had any of that. And that's why it's hard. But that's why one of the things that I'm here, why I do the things, if you see me at a conference, Gabe, I'm probably going to be dressed the same. I have tattoos from elbows up, right? And I don't wear long sleeves and boots. I don't wear long sleeves all the time. And I do wear suits, right? Anthony's the more polished guy. I listen to hip hop, right? I listen to hip hop when I pull into the parking lot. And you know what? It's because I'm trying to show this next generation.
Yeah.
You can listen to hip hop and be a workforce board director. You could be an executive. Yeah. You don't have to have a suit on every single day to help people. And that's part of like why I said I'm not going to, in certain rooms you assimilate, but in certain rooms I'm going to be myself because there's someone looking at me who really is themselves, and I need them to see this career pathway and see this option and see someone that looks like them.
Yeah.
I'm not as cool as you, but I'm working on it.
We need to like snap or something on that one.
Yeah, right. Oh, I just because I'm wearing black. I'm like, yeah.
You do. You got to look.
All right. So so now, because there are going to be people who are like now we're talking about like how to make a living in human services, specifically workforce development. But let's backtrack a little bit to the other people. We'll come back to that. So I want to talk a couple things about technology because I know we taught the Tinder thing, but let's talk about how technology. Well, and that could be writ large, right? Because that could include the bus, the mobile unit, which has got obviously technology to make it run. But how are you using technology to kind of bring people? And I'm especially concerned with people on the low side, like you said, people don't have that computer, don't have that Wi-Fi. So how are you, even with the mobile, you could have 1 million mobile vans. Prince George's alone is a huge county, and then if we take the region, it's crazy. How does it make a difference? Like, how do you build momentum? Because showing up at one neighborhood, one day with that mobile van, you got to hit the next neighborhood. And so if you can't connect with them and they can't connect with you, how do you keep it going?
So it sounds like you asked two questions.
I probably did. Yeah, I'm famous for asking.
Sounds like you asked two questions.
So I answered both. What did you hear? What were my questions? I don't even know.
What I heard is what technology innovation are you using to engage people? But also I heard technology is not the key. Like, how are you increasing accessibility to the system?
Well, that's good. Let's start with that then. Because if you don't use it, I guess I'm assuming that technology is the answer to the accessibility question, but maybe it's not. So let's talk.
No. The number one thing that's most important in any business is people, and also in the number one asset that I see or key to success in human services, workforce development services, education is partnerships. So this is, if you really want to talk about, I'm not happy with America's public workforce system.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I'm not happy about it because it's
let's go there.
Let's go there. Yeah.
America's public workforce system is blockbuster. It's blockbuster, and the people who are writing it are
wait, what do you mean by blockbuster? You mean like the video?
How many blockbusters are in America?
Oh, like the video store. Yeah. Okay. Right.
How many blockbusters?
How do you remember that? You're too young.
How many what? I still got my blockbuster card.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, I really do. I found it. I'm a hoarder. Yeah. So we're blockbusters. One blockbuster left in the country. And the thing is, we've made our proud to be blockbuster, right? Oh, we're the best kept secret. That's not good. That's not. Why do you brag on that?
But what do you mean when you say that the workforce system is blockbuster?
Because Redbox came, and Blockbuster didn't think Redbox was going to do anything, right? And then Netflix came, and then streaming and everything else, and now there's one Blockbuster left in America. The workforce system has never changed. We've always said that. Oh, we are the workforce system. There's three major workforce systems in this country: the public workforce system, funded through largely federal dollars; the nonprofit workforce system, largely funded through foundation and philanthropic entities; and then the for-profit for-profit workforce system where entities like CVS, Google, Facebook have workforce development divisions, national divisions that are not attached to HR. And they're applying for the same DOL grants that my nonprofit is, that Anthony's workforce board is. So knowing that we have at least 3 major workforce development entities, why do we not? But WIOA doesn't tell you, WIOA doesn't mandate to partner with your Chamber of Commerce. WIOA doesn't mandate to partner with a community development entity. WIOA doesn't mandate to partner with a nonprofit workforce development provider. WIOA tells you to partner with the same old people that WIOA's been partnering with since the legislation started in 1960s when people started talking about workforce development, right? In 1940s in the New Deal. So partnership. We are going to increase accessibility, not by getting more funds, not by getting more grants. It's by saying, hey, I need to partner with the Literacy Council, with the adult education provider. I need to partner with every child care. I need to partner with every single workforce development and workforce development related entity in my area. And I'm not talking just public, private, I'm talking about everybody. So we created the Prince George's County American Job Center Community Network. We branded our public workforce system and then modeled it as the first free membership workforce network that is a public workforce system in the country. And we probably have, if you go by members and partners, like actually people who have signed MOUs, we have the largest workforce system in the country with 90 plus documented MOU signed partners.
And what do they do for
24 libraries, food pantries, churches, municipal, like actually governments, HOA president, HOAs, right? And they all do what their expertise is. So when somebody walks into the library and they tell the librarian, if there's libraries don't really do fines anymore, the most progressive, if you have a fine, I lost my job, that librarian goes, we can register you in the Prince George's County American Job Center Community Network and help you find a job. If you go to a food pantry, you don't have food. You probably don't have food because you don't have a job. You don't have a job, you don't have money. So when you go to the food pantry registers you in the job center, says, hey, somebody will contact you. We're going to give you the food, but we're also going to help you. If you apply for, they call it LIHEAT, lights and utility assistance, they also are going to provide you with a connection to the Prince George's County American Job Center Community Network. So regardless, so we have 90 different people. So there's 90 different entities with probably hundreds of access points and doors when you talk about no wrong door. So we have probably 200 to 300 doors outside of the 2 American Job Centers and the Youth Career Center. Outside of those are our 3 doors. There's probably a couple of hundred other doors that you can walk through in Prince George's County and be connected to those 3 job centers. That's how we increase accessibility, is through partnerships and people, right? Now, how do we move people forward? It's through innovation. And the thing is, I don't want to keep, what's the definition of crazy? Anybody know?
We got to pause real quick. Coming soon to Montgomery County, everything he just said. So we giving you credit.
Is it really? We're gonna talk. I gotta hear this.
The process just started about 2 seconds ago.
All right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
So
you just gotta open it up now. It's a regional thing. I'm just saying. All right. We'll come back to it.
We're business. We're open.
I know. That's right.
So now, when you talk about this, right? When you talk about moving people forward, what's the definition of crazy?
Doing the same thing
over and over again.
Same results. Expecting the results.
All right. So we've been applying for grants to increase accessibility in the workforce system for nonprofits for how long? You never have enough money to serve everybody, to reach we do a lot of marketing, communications. If you listen to like Spotify in Prince George's, you might find an ad about the Prince George's County American Job Center Community Network or Employ Prince George's. You look on the radio, you go to a Washington Business Journal event, you're going to see our stuff. And there's still 40,000 people walking around Prince George's County that don't know who we are, right? We're never going to have enough money to reach everybody. And then at any given time through our data, there's 175,000 people in Prince George's County who need some kind of workforce development service. There's not enough grants in the country allocated that couldn't allocate to our area, even if we had the best grant writer, to serve 175,000 people. So artificial intelligence is the future of this country, of trucks driving, of cars. People in LA sleep and they're going down the freeway. Artificial intelligence is the future. We're working with an entity right now, Workforce Compass, Future Fit AI, where we're having them create and really working to engage with a job seeker virtually and guide the job seeker probably through the first 3 or 4 steps of a job search before ever having to speak or come into a job center, which will allow us to serve thousands, tens of thousands of people without exhausting the most precious resource we have is our staff, right? Yeah. And then they're going to profile it. As our staff do engage and enter the data and we profile it, we're going to profile the type of people that come through our workforce system and then also identify specific profiles or common profiles and the services and partners that lead to the most advantageous outcome. So that means when that artificially intelligent career consultant, powered bot or career consultant, when Anthony walks to the door and tells that bot who he is and his barriers and what he wants, in that bot is calculating, oh, I've seen 365 people just like Anthony. And those that have received a livable wage job and in the shortest amount of time receive these 17 services across these 4 partners. And then that bot is going to tell Anthony, hey, I've understood everything and this is the recommended pathway for you. Answer these questions. And then when Anthony goes, yeah, that sounds good, then that bot will connect Anthony with one of our staff. Mm-hmm. That is the future, right?
How far is that future for you?
I'm going to roll it out in July.
This year?
This year. The first stage. Right. See, the thing is, because one thing, if you're listening to this podcast, right, and you take anything away from me as a leader, right, you need to know what you don't know. When you don't know, you need to know it. You need to know what you don't know. When you don't know, you need to know it. The reason why this sounds new and like fresh is because we started the Virtual Career Center, our process in 2017, 2018. We're now working toward our 3rd system and thousands of hours to get to where we are today. And did we know that COVID would shut us down? Did we know all this would happen? No. In 2017, 18, we knew that Prince George County had a rural pocket of people who couldn't get to our one job center we had at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had to find a way to get access to those services. And that's what birthed the first virtual career center in Prince George's County. But now we've grown, we've doubled in size, and I still don't have the resources to meet the needs in my county. So now I'm trying to figure out ways that I can meet the needs through automation, just like the rest of the industries in the world, through automation, through artificial intelligence. So that's really the true future, is increasing accessibility and then making it easier and relatable. So,
man, that's awesome. So we've got a focus here in Montgomery County. It's probably the same in Prince George's. We're trying to reach some of our target populations, whether you're limited English proficient or, returning citizen, homeless, whatever the case may be. And I see a lot of programs coming out of your shop that are demographic specific. Just talk to me about that focus and making sure you're reaching into those communities, into those populations, and making sure that they have access, seamless access to services and programs that you all are running. I think that's always interesting to me, that you all do a great job at making sure that there's a program specific to a variety of populations. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, you have to have the data. So WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity, that gives you priority populations or target populations. But what's funny is the United States Department of Labor releases grants that ask for evidence-based practices, right? And they'll also, in those grants, it'll also say that you can't use WIOA. Yeah. Because WIOA is not an evidence-based practice, right? So they're telling you to focus on these populations, but in their own grant notifications, they're saying like, there's not even really data or evidence behind this. So you can't use the work that we're spending billions in for these other grants because it's not evidence-based.
Right.
So what we did in Prince George County is we took what the law said, and the law is just a guide, their words on a paper, and we created a workforce system that's based on actual data in our communities, and we identified the targeted areas with the most poverty, highest crime, highest unemployment. We also identified the populations, ethnicities, and groups that were the most disenfranchised, had the most economic inequalities. And then we created programs. We created 5 demographic specific programs: career pathways for all, for immigrants, refugees, and asylees, English language learners, and those residing in those households. Because we rarely talk about first generation U.S. citizens who live in a household where the only time they speak English is when they're at school. Right? Because I went to McCormick Elementary School in Adelphi, Maryland, right? And I'm gonna tell you, there maybe 10 multi-generational U.S. citizens there, and that's when I learned, when you're at a PTSA meeting and there's 10 interpreters there, and you realize I'm the minority as a multi-generational American, right? And all of those barriers where the student I was in elementary school where the 4th grader is translating their bad behavior or their skills deficiencies in their class to their parent in whatever language. You know what? And we wonder why people struggle in school. So we created career pathways for all for that area, right? We Encore 55 plus. You get discriminated against when you come into the workforce system because you don't have skills, you don't have qualifications, you don't have a background. You get discriminated on your way out of the workforce system because you have too many skills, too many years of experience, right? So Encore 55 plus program, our COVID-19 workforce development recovery program for those negatively impacted by COVID-19. We have our Veterans Career Connections program for veterans. We're the largest, Prince George County has the largest population of veterans in Maryland. And then reentry, pathways to success, because we have the second largest population of returning citizens in Maryland. And one thing I want to highlight in Prince George's County, when you talk about it, we're a tale of 2 counties. We have an above average amount of people with graduate degrees and the highest population, as you know, of adults without a high school diploma.
Yep.
Right? So we have to address that. Then we have 6 demographic industry specific programs for the top in-demand industries. We have the highest job growth, where we want to get our people into these businesses to fill those jobs. And we also need these industries to grow so we can stimulate our economy. And so we have 6 of those. We have 2 youth demographic specific programs because we're normally ranked in the top 3 of disconnected youth. So we need a program to prevent people from being disconnected with Youth Career Connection. So within 90 days of graduation, they're employed or in a workforce program. And then our out-of-school youth program for those that have already been disconnected. And lastly, program that we're partnering on, our apprenticeship innovation program, because Prince George's County, people don't realize, is the union building trades apprenticeship capital of Maryland, where most of the training facilities and unions are located in Prince George's County. We're also partnering on our Capital Area Healthcare Alliance program and our Construction Works program, because the construction and IT, our educational partnership for IT careers, because those industries are moving in. With Prince George's in Montgomery, Amazon is in Montgomery, Amazon's in Prince George's, CVS is in Montgomery, CVS is in DC, CVS is in Prince George's. We have to, and normally you don't see workforce areas that partner on these programs.
Right, I was going to say, yeah. Right.
But so, because we're being selfish, we're not really thinking that now. CVS, because there's one regional hiring director for this region. She has to meet with 13 individual local areas, or we can partner because we both have the same funds, and she can meet with one person. Right? So we have to use the data. And WIOA, as I said, is not an evidence-based practice. Per DOL, that tells you can't use that when you apply for a grant. We're using data and feedback from our community to create priority populations that align with the legislation. And then we created programs, we branded them, we created advisory boards of members from those communities so that they can engage in those programs, so that they can be the advocate and the champion of that program in that neighborhood and in that community. And that's how we've become successful, and that's how we've been able to grow and in the last 4 years help thousands of people. It's also, when you think about it, you say right now people don't come to job fairs, they don't want jobs. We do a quarterly job fair in November. We had 600 people show up. We did one last month. We had 400 people show up. And people said, Walter, what are you doing? Working with my community.
Well, let me hit on that because I'm gonna switch gears for a second. So, when we went into COVID, we had not only COVID, but we had this horrible string of terrible violence. Violence that was telecasted as opposed to violence that's always happening, right? But right, and if you work in the communities, then right, that's always happening.
Black and brown,
Well, yeah, for sure. But for that string of time that we were all cooped up because we saw those specific terrible incidents that again were televised and got the press, and then we all became more aware, or at least some people became aware. The rest of us knew, right? But so as a workforce, and this is what we'll return back to your idea about like how do we get more people in, and how do we get especially people who are Black and brown in those communities to do the kind of work that we're doing here. I guess I'm just wondering, as a workforce development person, how do you see your work tying to this greater call for social justice, racial justice, equity? Like, where do you see that connection? How, and I'm sure I know you do, but I guess I'm just curious.
Well, I'm not a workforce development professional. That's where we start out at.
All right, let's start with that.
I'm an economic development professional with an expertise in workforce development.
Okay. Well, what's the distinction? Why does that matter?
Well, economic development, it's a verbiage. Economic development really is the focus on growing the economy by building businesses. Well, workforce development does the same thing with a focus on people. But workforce development is development is economic development. And I say that workforce development is one of the disciplines maybe inside of it.
Yeah.
And that's how I tie it back to a lot of the socioeconomic issues in our communities. That's how I tie it to crime. Because really, when you talk about crime, you really talk about poverty.
Yeah, right.
Right? You really talk about poverty because high crime is normally in areas of high poverty where they don't have economic outcomes.
Right.
That's also tied to high levels or low educational attainment is also tied to poverty. So I really see everything tied back to economic opportunity. Right? And that's why we have the best jobs ever. We literally get paid to change generations. Because when you help that mom get health care, she's going to live longer. She's going to be able to help her children go to the dentist and not have cavities that end up being long-term diseases. She's going to be able to, you keep households together, and that increases educational outcomes, right? And so if we can start to focus on identifying the most impoverished areas in our communities and assembling through partnerships, holistic and wraparound services that help people achieve an economic opportunity, and I call it their piece of the American dream, we can decrease crime. We can decrease health disparities. Everything goes back to work.
To money, is it?
Well,
which is how you get.
It is.
Right,
because it's unfortunately, because nothing's free.
Right.
And if we can get you a job, we can get you health care, we can get you transportation, and you can, and money is not everything, of course, right?
I know.
But it really does. It really is. You can look at the root cause of things and tie it back to poverty. And that's why I feel like our work is so special. That's why for me, it's we have successes and wins, and I just go to sleep and wake up the next day because I know there's 20,000 people that are still not having a job. So it's really, I just really see economic empowerment as the solution to America's problems, right? And I think that we miss that, and that's why we really need to diversify our funding streams. We all represent the public workforce systems. We all represent partners. We need these diversified funding streams so we can stop closing the doors. We operate on our Employer Prince George's operates on a braided funding model. We're speaking on it at conferences across the country, but we're now building a workforce system that's operating on a braided funding model. We created our local training provider list that allows training providers, because the eligible training provider list is for WIOA.
Yeah.
The local training provider list in Prince George County is for every other grant that we receive. That's why when they say, how do you fund entrepreneurship? Because I don't fund it under WIOA. I do reentry entrepreneurship. I do Hispanic entrepreneurship. I do women's entrepreneurship. I do veterans entrepreneurship. right? We're growing that. We do youth entrepreneurship, right? Because we operate on a braided funding model where you, regardless of who you come in, we'll figure out what legislation or 4-letter, 5-letter acronym to enroll you into. We just need to know, what is your problem? What are your current demographics? What program do you want to go into? We'll figure out the grants and the legislation behind all that. And that's the goal where we have to stop thinking outside of the box and just build a bigger box, right? And then when you do that, you're going to see increased partnerships, increased funds. You're going to see new innovation. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to have greater impact. And when you start thinking about, when you get away from legislation and performance measures and think about people and impact, you're going to have your greatest change. And that's what we all need to work toward. And that's why we do the demographic specific programs. That's why we do the industry specific programs. That's why we're always getting new funding streams, because we're really trying to engage as many people as we can to move them forward by providing that economic empowerment. Right. And then in that, we're going to help fight health disparities, increase educational attainment, decrease unemployment, decrease crime, right? Because you know the number one population that has the highest placement rate at Employed Prince George's? Returning citizens. Mm. When we get a returning citizen a job, they don't lose it. Mm-hmm. But let's have a real conversation. If you're in the streets, and I've talked to people, right? They were like, Walter, I got out of jail, and they had me at McDonald's, or I was working at Jiffy Lube making $7.50,
right. It's not just a job.
An hour.
It's not just a job.
And they're like, I got 2 kids, right. And everybody in my house looking at me, right? And it was like they're like, Walt, Mr. Simmons, I had to let McDonald's go. I had to go provide for my kids. I mean, yeah, I don't want you to rob or kill anybody, but I do want you to provide for your family. So that's why I have to, as the workforce development director, that's my job. I have to own that. I got to provide that opportunity. I have to develop the partnership so that reentry, that returning citizen can know about that opportunity. I have to advocate with employers to show them through data how a returning citizen or someone with disabilities, because they are disenfranchised, how this person will most likely stay with your company longer than any other population. This is why you should hire them. Yep. And the longer that they stay with you, the more they increase your bottom line, because it costs $20-some thousand to backfill a position. If you talk about wages lost, right, the time it takes, all of that. Mm.
See, I think that's the answer that you guys are looking for. You just have to be entrepreneur. You just have to let people know that they're going to change lives in this work. It's not just getting people a job; it's changing a life.
Yeah, but teachers change lives too, and
and that's why people get into teaching,
and then they get out.
Well, yeah, but I think that's.
I mean, last year we saw how many people protesting at the State House. Because,
but that's what your point was. I'm not saying that's not what gets them in the door. Is mission. What keeps them in the door is good people who give them pathways.
You have to treat people. You have to treat your staff to where and build them where they can leave, but you're treating them so well that they don't want leave.
To, right?
And Anthony knows this. You know, at our team at Employed Prince George's, when I talk with funders, our staff salaries and what we pay people, that's what it is. If you feel like we're paying our staff too much, then I don't need your grant. Because my staff needs to pay mortgages, rent, provide for their families too. And we're asking them to change lives and we don't want to pay them. Right. So that's one thing I don't, when people say, oh, how much you pay your staff, what they need, what they deserve. Right. So I never want to be where I was eligible for the program that I was.
Well,
So we, now that I'm in that seat, I have to change it. And so those are things that we have to be mindful of to also attract people in the industry as well.
So you broke down your local training provider list, and it's funny because somebody asked me the other day, if you had your magic wand and you waved it, what would it look like, as far as workforce, tomorrow on the other side of that wand waving? And it had something to do with that eligible training provider list. I won't say where I said I'd put it, but we'd have to, pretty much.
That's why I wear the boots.
Yep.
I can step in anything.
So we're gonna,
since you keep bringing it up,
we should be that. That's our last question for the day. Let's talk about your uniform. What we can't see there, but we see your glasses and we see your boots, and it's not just a look. there's a symbol behind this. So you want to?
Well, can I ask one
No,
question?
you
that?
go. Yeah.
So what's funny is, I call Walter Oprah because I see on LinkedIn and other social media platforms 100,000 being distributed to small minority-owned businesses today. And next week, 100,000. You get 100,000, and you get 100,000. So tell me about this program where you're helping small minority women-owned businesses and probably other businesses as well. I'm just interested to hear about that.
Rapid Reemployment Grant Initiative. Well, what it started was the Hourly Employee Relief Fund. When people were getting laid off, what does a workforce system do? A lot of workforce systems shut down. Oh, there's no jobs. I'm gonna just go and get on my computer, right? Come on. So we started saying, hey, every jobs are closing. This is the middle of the pandemic. Everything's shutting down. No vaccination, none of that. I'm not here without Employ Prince George's staff. Man, this team went out and we started giving away $200 and $300 cards at all. We went to business and say, hey, we can't help you fill vacancies right now. We know that. But when you lay people off, call us. We're going to give everybody a $200 Visa card.
Where were you getting the money to do that, though?
The community. The community. We actually were getting $20 donations, $100. But the community foundation donated money. Prince George County government donated money. But the community, literally, a group of doctors at University of Maryland Capital Health gave us like $7,000. People were sending us $30 checks. It ran on the Wall Street Journal. We were getting checks from California for $30, $40, because people matter. And so we gave away like $1 million and $200 and $300 cards to people who got laid off so they could pay for their kids' birthday party, so they could pay their cell phone bill. We had a person whose car broke down in the line to get their car, and she was like, no worries, it's good. I knew it was going to break down, but I didn't have the money, but now I got this car so I could go to Advanced Auto Parts and pay for the part. That's what they needed. So then, but we're out of that. Now we need working. When I was talking to employers like, Walter, like I need 10 people, but I've been closed. I can only afford 5. So that's okay. All right, well, what would it take for you to employ 10? Money. So we created the Rapid Reemployment Grants. We wanted to decrease unemployment while help businesses. So any business who hires a unemployed Prince George County resident, and they could be rehiring a previous employee, qualifies for a grant that supplements for small businesses 75% of their new employee salary, or a larger business, 50 or more employees, 50% of that new employee salary for the first 12 weeks.
Where'd you get the funding for that?
So we started out with Prince George County government through COVID relief funds, and we gave away $548,000 in 90 days. Then once we realized it, because we gave away 30 grants, we had 115 applications. We had the application open for like 3 weeks and then closed it.
Yeah.
Then they came back because when we stopped speaking acronyms and legislation and start speaking people and business and needs, they realized it, and we ended up getting $9.5 million of funds from Prince George's County government. Then we started really going into these different funding sources, and so in total, we probably about $11 million. And what you see now, we've perfected it, where on average we give away about $300,000 to $500,000 a month, right? And so for this fiscal year, we've already given away $2.2 million to 80 some businesses, helping close to 300 people gain employment. And so every month we directly increase jobs, decrease unemployment, help unemployed job seekers, and help businesses, all with one initiative through our COVID-19 Workforce Development Recovery Program, the Rapid Reemployment Grants. And what's great about the work we do, in February, we saw our first kind of what I call life cycle moment of economic empowerment, where a person from the previous year had come back as the HR director, and they got hired through a Rapid Reemployment Grant, had become the HR director, and knew about the program, of course, and they were hiring 2 or 3 people and getting their company that grant. That's why we do the work.
That's big.
And I think, okay, so you're doing some super work. And I think you've got like a costume going on here that we need to talk about.
It's not a costume though.
What uniform?
Uniform. It is
uniform. That's a better one. So what's the?
Because costumes are fake.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. All right. So your Superman uniform. Tell us about what the two main ingredients of your uniform are, and tell us why.
So I don't care why we always did it. This is how we always do it. This is how it's already been done. I don't care. Right. I want to be that activist. I want to be that radical. I'm fighting for a good cause, but I'm going against the system. Right. And that reminds me of one of my heroes is Malcolm X. So that's when I got what I call my Malcolm X glasses. And that's kind of what psychs me up. If I got to go have a hard conversation, let me put my Malcolm X in. I knew I was coming here with Gabe and Anthony, so I had to be prepared. So I put my Malcolm X's on to make sure I was ready, right? And so that's really what I stand for is like just, the price of yesterday isn't today's price. Yeah. What we did yesterday is not what we do today, or this is the standard. Why? The standard's not good. America's public workforce system is blockbuster, and there's only one left. I want to be Amazon. I want employ Prince George's and Prince George County to be the Amazon. And I probably eventually want to be Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates because Amazon is using other technology. I want to create it, right? I want to create the next virtual career center. Let's do that. You down?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So that's that. Then I wear boots, right? I'm naturally from the South, even though you say from born and raised in South Carolina. Also, North Carolina's my roots as well. But now living in the DMV. So I wear cowboy boots, but I wear cowboy boots because what they stand for. When I look at old cowboy pictures, those were people who went out west. They were pioneers. They went to the unknown to really, why did people go west? They went west to find a better future, right? Economic opportunity, gold, right? Also, when you're on a cowboy, you got to kick the horse to get going. You see cowboys on a ranch. People watch Yellowstone, right? You got to move bulls
Some
and
people
stuff,
do.
right? and that's, I feel like what we do in workforce is we got to take risk. You got to kick the bull. You got to jump on the horse. You got to jump off the do you realize that there are thousands of people who don't get enrolled into WIOA every year because that program is scared to fail a performance measure on an Excel chart.
Yep.
So someone can't get a job that needs a job, that came to a job center because we're scared of performance.
Right.
I got to jump off the porch. And when you jump off the porch and you don't look at where you landed, you got to be prepared in what you step in or what you land in. So that's why I cowboy boots, because I know I'm going to buck the system with my Malcolm X glasses. I know I have to be an activist. I know I got to fight for change. And I know I might have to take that hit that the civil rights activists like Dr. King, like John Lewis, that they had to take those hits, but they were worth it now. But I also know that I have to practice what I preach. And so the first thing I did when we started Employ Prince George's, I ripped up the Christmas tree report, the federal wheel performance report that we all look at. I ripped it up and I said, I don't care. Even as we clean up files, we exit people out. Well, if we exit them, they might not be employed. We could get a negative. Okay, but they're not engaging with us. We don't know them. We got to exit them out.
Yeah.
We're no longer worrying about performance. We're worrying about impact and people. And so the cowboy boots are really reinforced that, and that's the mentality. And that's why I always wear them, because I'm always going to change the system. I'm never going to stand by what is the norm, because that's what everybody does. And I got to practice what I preach. So I got to be ready to step in and jump in. And, cowboy boots, you can wear them out. You can wear them in some dirt. You can clean them up. You can put a suit on them. I can go to a wedding in them. So I'm always ready. And that's the mentality. And it's something where we've had a lot of success and because of the people that work at EPG that you don't see. That's why I'm here, right? And I have to be fearless, because if you don't believe in what you do, if you don't think you're really going to help people develop the skills and be successful, how will your staff follow you?
Right. Yep.
And so every day, like any other person, I wake up and I'm fearful of what's happened. I might lose my job. I might do this. You buck in the system. You irritated somebody. And really my boots and my glasses, they give me that motivation. They take that fear away. And that's my suit that it allows me to do these things, because I'm fighting for my people, and I'm fighting for, my mother. I said this, my mother's my hero, of course, because she started working at 5, rolling tobacco. Because she had to help her parents pay for her school clothes. Yeah. Her dad had a 3rd grade education, worked in the trades, right? My grandmother, my great grandmother had a probably 1st grade education, replowed the farm because she didn't want the next generation to pick cotton, so they grew sweet potatoes. So now when I grew up, I thought Michael Jordan was my hero. When I grew up, my mother became a hero because I knew she started working at 5. I knew she came from a broken household. My father, same thing, broken household, moved out at 13. My great grandmother decided to replow her farm, hers, with a mule by hand, because she didn't want to pick cotton. She didn't want her family picking cotton anymore. So I can't be scared. I can't afford to be scared. And so when that fear hits me like it hits you and like it hits you, we all have those things. I gotta put my Malcolm X glasses on. I gotta put my cowboy boots on because I can't quit.
I'm gonna say you want to try that because I'm motivated.
Let's do
this
it.
Was a wonderful conversation. I gotta say, man, it's always I always get a kick talking with Anthony, as you know, but it's great to be in this and to end my week on a Friday. We had a long week this week, as I was telling Anthony, some staffing stuff and some WIOA stuff oriented. But I gotta say, man, this is the right conversation for me to hear. So it's a godsend, and I'll hug you after the cameras are done. I'm gonna give you big hugs. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And I thank you for Anthony for being here with me.
No, this was fun. Always good times talking to you both. Always learn a lot from Walter. Always learn a lot from you too, Gabe. So we got to continue this offline, man. This was good.
So everybody, this was the in case you were just tuning in, this is the Bridging the Gap podcast, BTG pod, as we like to call it around here. I'm Gabriel Martinez Cabrera. I'm the executive director of LCMC, and my partner here is
Anthony Featherstone, executive director for WorkSource Montgomery.
And we have been blessed to have Walter Simmons here with us from EPG, Employ Prince George's. We so thank you for joining us. Please look for us next week when we come back with another great guest. Thank you so much. Although it's going to be a hard one to fill. This is going to be hard to fill that seat, but it'll be a great guest. Thank you.